just want to mention our amazing sponsors, My Energy. They really are an incredible company. We've talked about them a lot, but I just want to quickly remind you, it's worth going onto the main channel to have a look at the recent episode we recorded with them where they launched their Libby battery. They now have 3 major products that all link together beautifully. The Libby battery, the Zappy charger, and the Eddy controller. And if those 3 products, this is what I like about them, is that their software works. I've just started charging my daughter's car at my house. I'm not there, but I did that using the My Energy app. It's just really good. I'm going to praise 2 apps that work really well when it comes to electricity in your home and your car, and that is the Tesla app, which is faultless and brilliant, and the My Energy app, which is stunning and staggeringly good. And a lot of the other apps I've tried to use are less than perfect. So it's really worth having a look at what My Energy are doing. Go down to their website, which is at myenergy.com, myenergi.com, and have a look at all the products they're making. They're an amazing company. But they started out with 4 people when we met them. There's now over 400. So it's really worth having a look. I really hope they're going to be exporting what they're making soon. And I think there is some moves afoot in that direction. But that's all. I just wanted to quickly mention My Energy. Big thank you for supporting the Fully Charged podcast. And now let's get back to the action. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fully Charged podcast. I'm here with Jack Scarlett. And we've got to say where we are, Jack, because for me, this is so cool. We're in a WeWork office space.
We are young and hip, Robert. This is...
you are young and hip. I've got a bad hip.
It's lovely, isn't it?
It's very nice. We've got a little office at WeWork. It's very good.
I know. We've poached a meeting room. We've turned it into a podcasting studio. Yeah. We were sort of expecting to be like a zoo exhibit and people are going to be waving at us, but we found one with smoked glass.
We've got smoked glass all around us, so we've got privacy, because obviously there would normally be crowds of people,
hordes,
desperately wanting attention and selfies. But we're safe from that. So we're going to have a nice old chew over all the stories that we've been doing recently. We've both been very busy, Jack more than me, doing things. And I wanted to sort of catch up with car stuff, because at the moment my focus is on so many other things that the car stuff, I'm deluged with information, but it kind of goes quite a lot of the time. But what have you done recently? MG.
Well, I think the gist of what we've collectively done in recent weeks could be summarised as Korean stuff and Chinese stuff.
That's true.
Which is really a sign of the times, isn't it?
It is.
So let's do Korea first. So we were in Korea a couple of weeks ago filming with the Kia EV6 GT, which is a blissfully mad, super high-powered version of the fantastic EV6, which I'm sure that you're not especially interested in.
Oh, I was very taken.
You take it.
I looked at that and I went, I haven't for a long time, because we've got this access to so many cars. For a long time I haven't gone, I'm on that one. But I did with that. As soon as you started talking about that, I went, oh my God, that is incredible.
And there's something about the fact that because the Kia brand has done so well with electric, because they've given us the Nero, which is very sensible and value for money, it doesn't irk me if they do something a bit expensive and fast.
Yeah.
Whereas if that was their first offering, we'd be going, hey, where's the
proper stuff? Yeah. No, it's fine.
They've earned the right to give us a big, silly.
Well, the EV6 is such a great car. I see so many of them around, clearly popular here, and that is bonkers, absolutely bonkers. How many horsepower?
I think it's just somewhere in the 600 region. So for context, a 1990s Lamborghini Diablo has less. Which I think really puts it into perspective.
Yeah.
So that was a lovely, bonkers thing. And then for me, one of the most important cars this year, the Ionic 6, which we'd been working to get our hands on for a very, very long time. Sleeker, more streamlined sister car to the Ionic 5, which we both love. And the thing that gets me excited about that, because we get very excited about efficiency here.
Absolutely, rightly so.
That to me is all those principles that we like from Aptera and Lightyear.
Yeah.
Distilled and put to a kind of sensible degree into a sensible car. So you could drive around in that thing, never knowing that you're in one of the most efficient EVs on the road, just getting more mileage out your battery.
Yeah.
Or you could sort of join in with it in trying to drive really efficiently, which is kind of what the car feels like.
Encourages you to do.
The old Nissan Leaf was like that as well. Do you remember that in your Leaf? You've got the little green cartoon leaf that will grow as you're being gentle.
Yes. No, I used to count my trees. If you could grow more than 3 trees on one charge, that was miraculous. You basically had to be going downhill with the following wind, but you could do it.
But it's I like the gamification of efficiency. I enjoy that, and it had a bit of that about it. So anyway, those videos are live. People can go watch them if they haven't already. I think we can talk about this because by the time this goes live, the embargo will have dropped. You've driven the new Ora Funky Cat.
The Ora Funky Cat.
It's grown a funky since I saw it earlier this year.
It has, because it was the Ora Cat, wasn't it? Which I got very confused, but it's the same car. Because we had that, I mean, one of the things I realised when I walked in and saw it was, I have seen this before, but I couldn't get anywhere near it. Because when it was at Fully Charged Live, it was just surrounded by tens of thousands of people, couldn't get anywhere close. And they had so many, people filling in their form to say, I want one, and from Fully Charged Live. They gave us a great tribute during their press presentation, which was very nice. I sat there modest. I was going, no, it's nothing.
Yes, hello, yes. It is us.
But it was amazing, and it's such a great little car. I mean, it is that thing now we're starting to see what I would classify as definitely second generation electric cars. So things like the Mitsubishi i-MiEV, the Renault Zoe, the Nissan Leaf, brilliant, amazing, breakthrough machines, but they were kind of first gen.
Compromised.
They were compromised by the battery technology available, by the software available at the time. This is taken another step. So in size, it's probably a little bit smaller than the Nissan Leaf. It's a little bit lighter, and it goes about 150 miles further on a charge. And it's not a big SUV. It's a really compact.
You can certainly fit a Jack in the back of one of those as well, which is quite impressive.
I did the Jack test.
Oh yeah.
So I had a small notebook which I had upright on my head, which I thought added roughly the right height, and I couldn't get in the back.
Well, I can't argue with that kind of science.
I think you would find the back extremely cozy.
Okay.
It's a small car.
Okay, well, it is a small car.
Yeah.
Do you think, my lasting impression from that thing, and I've not driven it, I've only kind of walked around it, but I looked at it and I thought that's what the ID3 should have been. Because it's quite nice inside,
yes,
it feels high quality.
The interior is amazing.
Liked about old Golfs, and the ID3 just doesn't have that in the same way.
It is very plasticky, isn't it, the inside of the Golf? No, this is, if it isn't real suede and real leather, which I don't think it is, it's really good imitation material. So the dash is all covered in, even because when you do that, I just admire that thing where you feel the materials. I don't really ever bother. And then in that one, I couldn't stop.
You had a rub.
I went, this looks like suede. And I was just stroking it for hours. But all the things that I loved about it was, like, I got in with one of the guys from Ora, and I said, this is great. I love the screens. They're really crisp. For my eyesight, the graphics on the screen, super sharp, high def. But I couldn't quite see the speed and the distance on the dash screen. And he just went, look, do that. And I lifted the steering wheel up and pulled it. I went, like the adjustments, immediately it was perfection. So all those little things that you gradually learn with those cars, just amazing. I couldn't, you can never tell in that time. I had drove it for an hour and a half, 2 hours, what the real fuel efficiency is and all that stuff. You can't. And I didn't charge it. We didn't have time to plug it in and see how quickly it charges. But you kind of know it's going to be all right. All of it worked really well. It's a really tight little car. It's absolutely not a creak, not a sound from it. The performance is nothing spectacular, but it's not rubbish. Yeah. Well, when I first drove it, the throttle mapping, I got really swished with the throttle mapping. But it's like you push it and nothing happens, and you go, and it pours. I would say it pours forwards. Yeah. Until I was at a junction where there was lots of traffic and people with children coming out of school and all that stuff. And there was a gap, there was a little mini roundabout, so I went, and I was going left, and it screeched the tyre, and I went, I just didn't want to do that. So if you floor it.
Okay, so maybe just a little bit of polish required in some of the...
But I mean, and they are still, there were engineers working on it when we were there that are still, adjusting it for the British market, but very nice
I like
car.
the look of that thing, and that's quite seminal because it's the first, we admittedly do have already Chinese cars in the UK. Yeah. And actually, things like my Polestar are at least half Chinese. Yeah, exactly. But this is the first time that it's a Chinese brand, undisguised, not dressing up as an MG. And it's the first of many, and it's impressive. Yeah. And then speaking of MG, speaking of Chinese stuff, I've just driven the MG5 recently, which I thought was really impressive. Oh, good. It's only a facelift of their big estate car, so now it's got a different face and a nicer screen. But
the MG5 original was, I've just seen one, just literally as I was walking here, as an Uber, I think. It was just, and I went, there's a lot of those around. But it does look like Is there a stylistic throwback for the original? It looks like it's quite old.
I think I said in the review it looks like someone tried to draw a VW Passat from memory, which I think is it's the most perfectly bland thing.
Yeah,
The new one's a lot smarter.
It is. It does look a lot better. Yeah.
But anyway, what I ended up spending most of that MG5 video talking about was the MG4 because I got to drive that day. You drove that.
I drove that. I love that.
Oh, it's a very good car.
I know, isn't it? Brilliant.
It's very good.
Yeah.
For me, that is a real kind of goalpost shifter, I said in the video. That's one of those cars that has really changed my perception of what we can reasonably expect from cheap stuff. Because there's cheap stuff in the electric car market was so underwhelming for so long that we would kind of just go, it's fine.
Yes.
But that's not fine. It's really good.
No, it's really
good. My bar is raised for what I expect from these sub £30,000 EVs.
I mean, it is that difficult thing when we say cheap, because we've got to put it in the context of cars that basically cost between 20 and 120,000 quid.
Yeah.
That's the price range for electric cars, say. You know, and there will be some that are sub 20. We've got to wait for a little bit of time, I think. But the thing is, I don't know if anyone buys a new car for cash. I've never done it. I don't know if people do that. I think you do. I mean, I lease the ones I've got now, so I don't know how to say, because it's that discussion. It's annoying, but real. God, really, it's not cheap. Well, no, of course it isn't. The first time I bought a new car, I was in my mid-50s.
Sure.
And up to then, they were my cars. Before that, I had second-hand cars, which for me was really flash. Second-hand. Yeah. Because before that, they were 10th hand, 5th, 6th, 7th hand. They were not. Because who bought a new car? Absolutely. I didn't know.
My first car that I bought myself cost £2,000 and had the C word keyed into the roof. I also agree that 30 grand is not especially cheap. But a few things on that. One, a new Golf is like £25,000 these days.
Just like a petrol.
Just the Bogo entry-level Golf is about 25 grand. I was researching this for the MG5 video. The closest equivalent petrol car I could find was an Astra estate car, which you'd rather be run over by one than drive one. And that was like £27,000.
Wow, okay.
So cars just aren't that cheap
anymore.
They're not. No. We get comments. I did the Polestar 3 the other day, which is a big fancy thing, and people commenting going, when are we going to see £15,000 electric family SUVs? Like, well, never.
Not till they're second hand.
How much cars cost anymore. And the other thing is, as you quite rightly say, no one is paying for cars in cash. You pay monthly. And with electric cars, it's all about those residual values, which tend to be extremely strong, which tends to mean you can potentially afford an electric car with a higher sticker price than a petrol car with the same sticker price because it's going to be worth more a couple of years later, and therefore you're going to be paying less on it.
Because it's all those things that we don't necessarily discuss, and I don't get those questions. But residual value. That was one of the things Ora talked about. Was there is an organisation in the UK that kind of generates residual values. Looks at a car, tears it to bits, has a look, what's it going to be worth after 10 years. Really high residual value.
I'm working on a video at the moment where I'm going to do a list of all the best used electric cars that you can buy. I'll tell you what, Robert, it's bloody hard because they're all... Do you know how much like a 4 or 5 year old Kia e-Niro costs right now?
I bet they're not cheap.
Almost exactly the same amount as a brand new Kia e-Niro. Like they haven't gone down. So it's a bit frustrating if you're looking for a cheap old Vita, and there are some out there, and we'll cover that in the video. But it's a good sign, right? It's a good sign that they hold their value so well, because it means that you're not going to lose your arse if you lease one.
Yeah. But is there a car on the horizon that we haven't reviewed yet, that we haven't seen yet, that hasn't come out yet, that's got your...
But I was pondering this the other day, because I was at that Polestar 3 launch, and it wasn't really what I expected it was going to be. It's a big old car with a big old battery and a fat price tag, and you kind of look at that and you think, this isn't massively moving things on.
Yeah.
But what Polestar were very keen to emphasise in their presentation of it is, look, we're still in that phase where we need to convert people.
Right.
We're still pulling people. Sometimes we're so deep in it that we forget that a lot of people are still unsure about electric cars or yet to commit.
Yeah.
And it's idealistic to suggest that we should all just jump in microlinos that are hyper efficient and very small on the road. It's a lovely thought, but it's not going to happen. Yeah. So we kind of do have to cater to the current Range Rover owners, don't we? And give them something to want as well. I'm not excusing the Hummer because it's insane.
That is stupid. Yeah,
insane. But it's worth keeping in mind that we still need all different sorts of electric cars in order to kind of keep this thing rolling, don't we?
But I mean, I think there is a clue for manufacturers, and this is really, I'm saying this to manufacturers, to just check don't watch the videos, just look at the views. Because if you look at there's basically the smaller and cheaper the car, the more views it gets.
Yes.
That doesn't necessarily mean anything in terms of actual sales, but it certainly means something in terms of interest of the general public.
100%.
I mean, what's the Microlino episode? Has it gone past
1.1 million?
It's gone past 1 million, in a few weeks. You know, I mean, and that is, and yet the biggest, most wonderful, and they are great. I mean, I've walked past about 3 or 4 e-trons this morning because I walked through Chelsea. There's a clue.
Oh, yeah.
And they're there, and people like them, obviously. But I mean, those are big, expensive cars, and you know they're going to sell them. But when we review them, our views on those are not as high, you know, as the smallest and lighter ones.
People just still screaming out for more options as far as cheap and simple stuff.
Yeah.
And, we'll certainly be focusing our coverage on those going forward, as we always have. And there will be more and more of them in the coming years.
Yeah. A little story that caught my eye. Let me just check that. Where has it gone? There. Only because both my children are relatively new drivers. I mean, they're roughly the same. I don't even want to admit this. Roughly the same age as you. They're in your generation, but they both had to learn to drive manual, or as Americans would say, stick.
Yeah.
Just because they might have to drive something like that. But the number of young people now doing their driver training and tests who choose to just do automatic, because you can pass. Yeah. I'm sure the same around the world.
Automatic only license.
Automatic only license. That's now overtaken people who are doing manual.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very
interesting. That's happened in the last year.
Gosh, because even just a handful of years ago, it must have been overwhelmingly manual.
Yeah,
absolutely. I knew 2 people from school that learned automatic, and they were horrible drivers, and that's the reason. It was one thing too many for their brain. But I suppose it makes sense, right? Realistically, how much stick shifting are you going to be doing if you're 17?
Yes.
At this point in time.
Yeah, because you're more likely to be driving electric. It was interesting. My daughter told me the other day, because she can drive manual / stick, and one of the people she's working with, she's worked for a TV company, not fully charged, and not in front of the camera. Very sensible young woman. She had to do a load of extra driving because the other production manager, assistant, whatever it was, could only drive manual, and they only had manual cars on hire. You know, it was a BBC production, so she had to then do all the driving and was in quite a bad mood.
Well, that's a good example of why potentially it's good to have it in the back pocket. You go on holiday somewhere obscure.
I mean, I'm amazed. So there's over 1 million drivers in the UK now that have automatic only licenses, which is, I'm really surprised. I would have thought that was much less than that. But it was one of those silly little stories that caught my eye.
I do like a gearbox. I do enjoy a gearbox.
Yeah, I haven't done it for a long time.
Some brands have experimented with installing gearboxes into electric cars, but it's such deliberate over-engineering that your brain kind of goes, no, that's silly.
Yeah, an extra weight and complexity and everything, Because I remember I drove a Ford Mustang in Los Angeles probably 5 years ago, manual, and it was like driving a truck. That's what it reminded me, because it's the gearbox, physically, the gearbox takes up half the cabin. It's enormous. But that was quite fun. I think that might have been the last.
Fully charged Robert Llewellyn admits he loves a big dirty V8, a big honking
thing.
Naturally aspirated V8.
Actually, I think we should mention that just because they're so lovely. The team, the Sono Motors team. I don't know if you've been following. They've been in America. They've been touring America with the Sono Scion.
Was Whoopi Goldberg there?
Whoopi Goldberg's had a go. I think she may have ordered one.
Good.
Which is great. She loved it, and all these people raving about the Sono. Isn't that? I mean, I just think it's great that this tiny company, which is run by basically, I'd say, toddlers.
So a couple of young lads who, you look at the drawings of them proudly stood next to their V1, and they are not a beard hair between them.
No.
They are very, very nice chaps, those boys, and I really hope it works out for them.
Yeah.
There's a couple of companies, really exciting companies, I'd include them and Lightyear, where you're kind of like, this is great, can you start building it now?
Yeah, can you start making them?
If you can start building them.
But apparently they're doing, they're very...
it's looking good.
Yeah, they're very happy. They're obviously having a great time.
I love that thing.
Got to do this story, because this was I stupidly tweeted it, and I'm trying not to tweet anything, but it just caught my eye that there's legislation just been passed in France that all car parks that have space for 80 cars or more must be covered in solar panels.
Oh, wow.
And I went, oh, that's a really good idea. We should do that in this country. Oh, we should have done that in this country 7 years ago, which I stand by that thought. But the response on Twitter was not what I expected, which was incredibly furious.
Why?
Because we should put them on buildings first, or they don't work, or you're stupid. Or,
so just really sensible,
but it kind of
disagreement then.
Because you can always talk about we all live in our little bubbles. Whatever that was, it leaked outside my little bubble. And
I was in Korea recently, saw a bunch of car parks with solar coverage, and you look at it like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not like anyone. Well, first of all, it keeps your car dry.
Yeah.
The car gets less hot if it's sunny.
If it's not sunny. And also, if you've got electric cars and you put car chargers on, that's where the power comes from. I don't know why.
Issue with that?
Okay, I don't know. There were lots of because of all the concrete that would be used to put the framework. Well, it's got concrete on the car park. Let's not have roads. I don't know. Yes,
At least the legislation has passed. That's a good thing.
Yes,
that's a good thing. That's exciting.
And I think when you see the big car parks here, so people then started sending me pictures of car parks in the UK. Of all companies, Bentley cars, which I think their big works is outside Derby. Their entire car park, huge car park, covered in solar.
Good on them.
Yeah. And it produces a lot of power that runs the office. And you go, well, they're stupid.
Yeah.
They put concrete on their concrete car park to put their chargers on. Anyway, no, it's one of those.
Free energy. Once you get them up there, it's just free energy forever and always.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, those are my two little.
That's
stories.
very encouraging. Let me just see if I've got anything else for you.
There was the number of battery electric vehicles registered in the EU in Q3 of 2022, which is the sort of latter half of the summer, 259,449. Wow. That is amazing. We're over 500,000, nearly 600. No, we're over 600,000 BEVs on the roads in the UK now, which is more than half a million, isn't it?
This is a ridiculously subjective thing to say, but I, in the last few weeks, feel like I'm just seeing way more electric cars on the road.
Well, I mean, it also depends where you go. London is in a huge amount. The south of the UK, anywhere south.
Absolutely.
If you go further north, when we go up to Harrogate next week, or this week, or last week, actually.
Yeah.
When we were in Harrogate
whenever
last
we
week,
were there, whatever time is,
there were less electric cars, except for where we were, unless we don't go to Harrogate if it's raining.
Oh yes.
So when we could have gone to Harrogate, but I do notice
if we went to Harrogate. It's. I was saying this to Polestar the other day because I noticed way more Polestar 2s in the other road, and I said this to a Polestar PR lady, and she was like, yeah, we just delivered like a load of them recently.
Right.
And I think it's true of a bunch of different models. And actually, I've heard recently from a couple of different brands that they really feel like the end is in sight as far as the shortages.
Yes.
So I don't think I can say who, but a couple of people I trust who are quite high up at certain car brands.
And you're talking non-Chinese brands, because they're clearly
absolutely non-Chinese brands. I was speaking to a PR the other day, and I kind of threw my hands up in the air and went, "When are we going to see the end of these horrendous lead times?"
Yeah.
And he just kind of thought about it and went, "End of next year."
Right.
And MG reckon that they can put you in a new MG5 inside of a few weeks.
Yes. Well, so do Ora.
Yeah.
Ora's not got a problem with supply.
Maybe, just maybe, we're approaching the end of this horrendous backlog, which was caused by COVID.
Yeah.
And it seems that a lot of manufacturers are really optimistic that next year it's going to be a lot quicker, and then by the end of next year you can just have the car when you buy it. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. Because I mean, that is the other one, is all those figures. When you see the figures, the breakdown, I haven't got it here, but the breakdown of electric passenger cars in Europe, and you see, MG, has done some, and a Renault, Zoe, and a Nissan, and then at the top, Tesla Model Y and 3. It's just,
ridiculous.
It's just every out of every 10 cars, 7 of them are Teslas.
Yeah,
you just go, how have they done that? And that's one question. Another one, I don't even want to really talk about it, because who knows what will have happened by the time this goes out. But how long will they be able to do it?
I was about to ask you about this, Robert. You're right. It's a risky topic to talk about on a podcast that's going to go out a week after we record it. Because goodness knows what will have changed. Yeah. But what are your thoughts at this moment in time of this sort of Elon Musk saga with Twitter, and what impact do you feel that he's having on Tesla as a company?
Well,
at this moment
that's my worry. I can't be bothered to worry about Twitter, because that will come and go anyway, and those tech companies always do. But the incredible success of Tesla around the world, and the massive problems that it's causing in a sense in the automotive industry in general, because it's such a beacon, and everyone else measures themselves by it, and which I think is wrong, and I don't think they should, but it's very hard not to. And it's been the actual business, the finance of the business has been really threatened by a really unstable. I don't even want to talk about it, because I don't think billionaires deserve our attention. I think we should ignore them and also shun them socially.
Especially the ones that really want our attention.
Yes. I don't want to give him any attention. I don't want to give him any airtime at all. But also the fact that he is definitely damaging that. Well, I've just been listening on the way here to people who are pretty much more involved in US business about how he could be booted out of the company. You know, that he doesn't have the same shareholding or voting capacity as your Facebook man, Zuckerberg. Yeah. You know, no one could get rid of Zuckerberg unless he wants to go. But people could get rid of Musk out of, and in a sense that, you know, if they got rid of him, the companies, you know, everybody goes, oh, Elon Musk's Tesla. No, I've met loads of people who work at Tesla. They're not called Elon, and they're brilliant, and they're amazing engineers. And they don't get any PR or publicity.
Surely
or anything.
There's kind of like a whole other board of people who are sat there with their head in their hands every morning seeing what he's tweeting.
Well, I mean, the value of the company's fallen off a cliff because he's taken all the money out to buy Twitter. I mean, oh God, I mean, it is. And, you know, you go, he's done amazing things before. He may turn it around. Twitter may become this phenomenal success. And in 5 years' time, Twitter's bigger than Facebook and it's worth 50 trillion, quintillion. But it looks pretty doubtful.
Yeah. I mean, we've really rolled the dice there by commentating on this particular story.
But I'm sure we won't get any comments or anything from anyone.
I think we should give a shout out and some love to our colleague and CEO, Dan Caesar, at this moment in time, because I spoke to him this week and he was a little bit despondent. And the reason for that is because outside of his family and his work and you know, his great passion for climate change.
Wisdom teeth. He's had a wisdom teeth out.
True.
Wisdom tooth.
The two things that really get him out of bed in the morning are Liverpool Football Club and fighting people on Twitter. Those are the things that get him revved up. Well, Twitter is potentially about to be ruined by his once hero, and Liverpool Football Club is potentially about to be bought up by some oil tycoons, which means that he immediately has to relinquish his support for them.
So, see, I hear all about Twitter, Elon Musk, Tesla, electric vehicles, renewable energy from Dan, but never football, because he knows that I don't know anything about football.
I'm hoping for him that at least one of those two things doesn't happen, because he's going to need new hobbies.
He's having a tough time, poor boy. It's not fair. No, that is difficult for him. I can see that. Because that's the thing, is there's so many contradictory stories. So Tesla have requested to double this, or not double the size, but a massive extension on their German factory, so they can produce 1 million cars a year in the German factory. And you go, it is crazy, isn't it? Because I think Toyota at their absolute peak were producing 1 million cars a year, but they've been going for 50, 60 years. And this is how old is Tesla now? 10, 12 years, 30, maybe 15 years old, you could say, sort of.
The Roadster was like 08, 07, and that doesn't count.
The
Model S was
2012, right? So 10 years. Yeah. So it's been 10 years as a mass-produced, churning out cars.
That is crazy.
In 10 years.
That is crazy.
That is incredible. And they sold staggering amounts of cars this year. It's been unbelievable.
And that's what they should continue to do.
Well, yeah. And also, that was the other thing that at least he did announce that, and that was projected, was a kind of hatchback-sized compact Tesla, which is such a good idea. And they really, and he's saying half the price of a Tesla Model 3, which will mean absolutely nothing, because everything he says is completely contradicted 24 hours later. But it should be it's going to be a cheaper, smaller car.
That was the original, the commandments of Tesla when it was founded as a company, which has now been copied by lots of other companies. Is step one, build expensive car in relatively low volume to raise money, Model S. Step two, build sort of middling price car in more volume to raise more money, Model 3. And this is the next step. The next step is build a high volume, low cost electric car, the one that the world really wants and needs.
You sort of hope that comes out before the Cybertruck, which I'm sure will be great fun, and some people will buy. But however you view the Cybertruck, it's going to be a few thousand. It's not going to be millions of Cybertrucks.
It's not going to change the world.
No.
It's a good laugh.
Yeah. And the Roadster.
Yeah, well, it's all gone very quiet.
It's gone very quiet. Yeah. But anyway, who wants to talk about Tesla and Musk anymore? Let's hope we get lots of comments. I don't want any comments.
No, please be nice to us.
I don't know anything. I have met him. I don't know if I've ever said this on the podcast. I did meet
you?
Yeah, I did meet him. Yeah.
Go on.
But I'm trying to think when it would have been. It was in Roadster era, so he wasn't a big public figure then. And I can recreate the entirety of our conversation. It's very easy.
Go ahead.
Hello, Robert. This is Elon. Oh, hello. It's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too.
And then
that was it.
Oh,
There was nothing else. Well, then someone else came in and had more important things to say.
Was it like a kind of shared
At
Zoom
a thing,
call type situation?
no, it was in a little launch of the the Roadster Sport. I think it was the second generation Roadster. So they pulled a cloth off a Roadster in a tiny showroom near Harrods. Like minute, like a double garage, really small. Probably 60 people there.
It's a good claim to fame.
It is. I've shaken hands with Elon, but he won't remember, and I can only. He certainly won't remember the depth and the complexity of our conversation. I would have talked to him more had I had the chance, but I was sort of elbowed out of the way by very eager people.
I'm not sure I'd want to at this stage.
Now, imagine if you were in a room and you saw him on the other side of the room, I'd leave. I'd find the door.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. I don't want to hear anything. Yeah, no, it's a bit different. Oh my God, we're going to upset so many people.
Yeah. No, we've really set the table for a lively comment section on this particular podcast.
Or we're totally ignored. That's the other possibility.
Or it's all completely outdated because he's of burnt Twitter HQ to the ground and bought Reddit in the week since we recorded this. I'm sure.
I've done. That's most of my notes. There must be other. Hang on, because we might work our way around that. Yeah, we ought to try and do a bit more.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's a very short episode. What other topics are there? Oh my God. We've done cars. We've done. I'm trying to think of what, because there's other things we're going to film, but I don't want to talk about them yet because some of them have been delayed for.
Oh, okay. Well, I was about to ask you about some of your upcoming Aussie endeavours.
Are
we allowed to talk about any of those?
I suppose we could do.
So is it public knowledge that you're going to be spending a little bit of time over there ahead of the show?
I don't think it's public knowledge, but I am spending time in Australia before the show in Sydney because of my Australian wife and family. So I haven't seen the Australian half of my extended family for 4.5, nearly 5 years. Last time I was out there. So we're doing a longer stay near my mother-in-law, who I get on with really well. I hope Judy doesn't hear this, or any members of the family, but I love my mother-in-law, which is, all the mother-in-law jokes.
Yeah, that's very,
I get on with her really well.
The grain
if anything, I probably get on with my mother-in-law better than my wife. No, but that's because she's entertaining and quite rude to me, which is fine. So we're spending some time with them.
Yeah.
And then I'm also filming in various places because there's amazing stuff going on in Australia.
Yeah, well, you told me about this. You said that you were going to be doing a lot of filming over there, and I sort of thought, well, haven't they gone absolutely nowhere with EVs? And it's certainly true there's not many electric cars on the road, but there's some really interesting stuff happening in terms of energy, isn't there?
There's a huge increase in the number of electric cars on the road, a very sudden increase, and they're mostly from China. So there's already electric cars available in Australia that we haven't even heard of or can't get here. So there's a big lot of that happening. There is, their solar penetration and battery usage in houses is way above anywhere else in the world. Yeah. They have the highest penetration of rooftop solar, domestic rooftop solar anywhere, which has really affected their energy system. And this is all, I think, this is always really the key point of the energy transition is it's painful, awkward, dirty. It's not a sudden panacea and everything's perfect, because if you run a grid, a national grid like they do in Australia, which is a very long, thin grid because it goes around the sort of the eastern seaboard, and it's entirely powered by coal, which it has been, and the peak time of that consumption is the middle of the day, and then you have millions of people putting solar panels on their roofs of their houses. Their peak consumption disappears. There is no demand in the middle of the day because it's completely taken up with solar, because there's so much solar. So if you're running air conditioning in your house, your energy demand goes in perfect sync with solar generation.
Of course it does. Yeah.
Not unlike here where we need power.
So grid demand is just like that.
Yeah.
Once
they have to turn them, so they're losing money and they're getting cross and they're going, that power was coming from the sun, that's ours, we own it, and all sorts of arguments. at the moment they have an administration that is very much in favour of renewable energy, solar stuff, all that, and electric vehicles, which it hasn't been. It's been very negative.
It's an interesting kind of side effect of solar, for example, is this kind of democratization of power creation. You kind of suddenly go, well, actually, I make my own energy. I don't really need you grid operators.
Yeah. Well, they're also talking about things like community batteries. So people, say in a housing development, I've got solar, but to actually expect people or suggest to people you should have a battery as well, a really expensive thing to put in your house. Is it sensible for every house to have batteries? And so they're talking about having community batteries, which should be, a couple of megawatt hours of storage in one centralized location, in one cabin, that all the houses share. So you'd have software that share, so it would be like you've got a battery in your house, but you don't actually have to put the battery in.
Yeah.
So massive cost savings, is much, economies of scale makes much more sense to do that. And that does then spread that load. You could then spread that load over the day. So when you come home at night, even in Australia, the thing I always forget when I'm not there is it gets dark quite early. It might be stinking hot, but it gets dark because it's near, certainly in Queensland, where my mother-in-law, my favourite mother-in-law lives. The lights. It's like really sunny and then it's dark.
Yeah.
We do dusk here, don't they? They don't do dusk. On or off, mate.
Yeah. It's true.
It's very quick. Yeah. So that, therefore, having access to solar electricity at night does make sense there if you're cooking and you've got lights on in your telly and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Australia, surely just in terms of weather and sheer land mass, kitted out with enough solar could power the entire universe, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, there are plans to do mind-boggling solar farms there, and they're doing offshore wind now. They're doing wind as well. There's onshore wind in Australia. No, I mean, there's hell of a lot going on there, which I'm really excited to see. There's a few projects I want to go and see that are amazing. But that's the thing, when we've just gone out very briefly over the sort of logistics of filming that, I go, when we're here, we go
pop up.
Wait,
no, that's 10,000 miles.
Yeah, we're going up to Hull. Oh, we have to plan that in. Oh, wait a minute, no, we're going the distance from here to Kathmandu. It's that sort of incredible distances. How do we do that?
Not really the same as sort of popping up to Solihull to do an MG.
But you can now drive across the Nullarbor Plain, which is from Perth in Western Australia to Adelaide.
I think you must.
Well, I want to, but I said to Judy, what about, can we drive across the Nullarbor? And she just went, what, in January? Well, I don't know. Do you know how hot it is? It is unspeakably hot.
We have no semblance of, being from England, like, it being so hot that it's actually a negative thing.
Yeah.
Like I remember studying in California and a teacher coming in one day and go, God, sorry I'm late, God, the weather is just horrendous today. And she meant hot.
Right.
We are so sort of conditioned to be grateful when the sun is out. That even if it is brutally hot, we're like, oh, this is nice, I'm enjoying it, I'm putting sun cream on. They've got it right, not in Oz. They know after a certain temperature you just stay inside and you want nothing to do with it.
Because it is my favourite term, hot enough for you, mate, is a great question I get. Why are you complaining about this? This is fantastic. It's 50 degrees centigrade, you idiot. Get out the sun.
Yeah, that's too much.
Well, that was the first year I went there. Went to a New Year's Eve party with Judy with a load of her mates who were all cool hipster goths. And we arrived at the door and the bloke he just froze. He just looked me up and down and he went, is it still fashionable to have a tan in England, mate? Because it's not here. And I'd gone, I was like, the winter and it's sunny. It was so glorious.
Oh, you're unfashionable for having visibly soaked up the sun.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, they were all white as northern hemisphere goths. They must just go around with. Being a goth, that was a time when I first went to Australia. Goths were big. And you do not want to be a goth in Brisbane.
No, God.
A tropical goth, it just doesn't work.
All that eyeliner's going to melt in the sun. It's a nightmare. I don't know how we got onto Aussie Goths.
I don't know. But so we're doing a lot in Australia. We should talk about the live shows next year because I've just been having meetings about that. 6 live shows, insane. So I've got to list them. So it's because I keep forgetting. It's Sydney.
Can we do them in order? It's Oz.
Yeah, Sydney. Then it is Farnborough. Then Harrogate. Then a small gap for us to do some filming.
We probably should do some of that. Yeah,
God. And then it's San Diego, Vancouver, Amsterdam.
That's correct. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Well, because San Diego was brilliant.
Amsterdam.
And you saved me because it's so typical. This year, and when I'm in San Diego, I'm going to be 100% fit.
I hope so.
Because I got food poisoning. I didn't want to tell anybody at the actual event, but I got food poisoning the night before. And I haven't had food poisoning for 20 years. I can't even remember that. I mean, I'm sure it's happened to everyone, but I was really ill. Yes. So you saved me on whatever day that was.
I come and on one of the panels, which was it actually went really well. It was totally fine. The only other mishap that happened on that panel is I almost invited someone onto the stage as a panellist who wasn't actually one of the panellists. You remember that famous BBC News clip when some taxi driver sat down to be an expert on something? I very nearly pulled a member of the crowd and started asking them questions about sort of like,
importing vehicles from China,
Chinese supply chain and whatnot. But no, it went absolutely fine. I hope for you that you get to experience it in full this time around.
It was only that one time I just collapsed, but I'm sure it'll be all right.
And the Dutch show.
The Dutch show was
honestly,
amazing.
for all the silly things we've done this year, might be my favourite thing that's happened this year.
It was such fun.
Absolutely amazing. I love that city as well.
When we all went out on the boats. Oh, that was nice. Electric boats.
Electric.
Oh yeah.
Electric boats.
Well, they're all electric, aren't they? In Amsterdam, they're all very cool. They're just annoying. They're all perfect.
I can't wait till we can quit this whole YouTube thing. Is do a live show every weekend.
Yeah,
that's the plan. It's 6 shows next year, 20 in 2023, 52 in 2024.
All in different cities, all travel between each one by electric vehicle. Oh my God, I'll need to be in a sort of deep freeze trailer and just thawed out at each event.
God, yeah.
Oh goodness me! No, but they are fun, and so if you get the chance to come along to one of them, do make the effort because they are amazing events, aren't they? And such an amazing atmosphere. I mean, I think that's the thing, which is, in a sense, nothing to do with us. You can't create that. You can't make that atmosphere. You can't pay for it. It just happens, and it's an amazing atmosphere. And I hear so many times the stories of people who met at Fully Charged and then went to this and did that, and when they could see people, a lot of that goes on, which is really good to hear.
It's just so optimistic and lovely is the atmosphere at those shows. Yeah, I would encourage people especially to find their way to the big Farnborough UK show. Yeah. If you're anywhere near it, it's because that is the mothership, isn't it? And it's really just morphed into this enormous event, which is, it's quite scary to think that all the others are going to be like that in a couple of years as well.
No, it is a huge thing. I think we can do the story about the man in Cornwall because it's such a lovely story. So there's I don't think we're running them anymore, but in older episodes you can see it. We were running a commercial, like a TV commercial for the shows to show what they're like. And there's a very brief shot of the crowd queuing up to get in. And one of the people in that shot, and it's probably only on screen for 1.5 seconds or something, is a guy in a white shirt grinning. And he's got in touch with us because he lives in Cornwall and his house has got solar panels and a battery and a zappy charger, and he's got an electric car. And he sounds amazing what he's doing, solar thermal heating, he's got everything. And he said, I'm the idiot in the white shirt with the big grin in the advert. So I thought that was very cute.
I think his name's Gerald. I think we should give a direct shout out to Gerald.
Gerald in Cornwall.
You are a hero.
Yes, we're very, very impressed to see that. And you don't look like an idiot, you look like a highly sophisticated gentleman.
Exactly. Yeah. Very much so.
Well, I don't know. I've got no other stories, Jack. I'm really sorry.
I think we've completed the news.
Yeah, I think we have.
And if we speak any further on topics that could evolve very quickly over the next week and a half, we're just going to create more trouble for ourselves.
That is trouble. That is right, because we haven't mentioned any British politicians, because they'll definitely have gone by the time this goes out.
A new cabinet by that time, presumably. Well, thanks for coming and visiting me in my office.
WeWork. I love WeWork.
Nice.
What was the name of the guy who started WeWork? Ari, something like that. Because there's a TV series, if you don't know anything about it, WeWork offices are brilliant, and the guy who started it was clearly an eccentric, got nothing to do with the company now. I think we should make that clear. Yeah, but, it was a fascinating story, and Anne Hathaway is in the TV series as his missus.
Another classic example of a CEO with a messiah complex.
Yes,
there's a lot of that going around.
Can't think of anyone else that would fit that bill at all. That would think that they were superior and brilliant. But of course, there are a lot of brilliant people, and we don't want to denigrate them at all.
Well caveated. I think we're safe.
Anyway, do subscribe to the Fully Charged podcast. Do tell your friends. I think that's quite an important one. I like suggesting that. Yeah. Tell your mates about it, because there's we know there's some amazing episodes coming up.
Certainly.
And there's some special podcasts. So we're doing some new format podcasts coming soon.
We're going to have 1 million subscribers in a month or two's time, and we're going to give some stuff away when that happens. So be one of those million.
That is true. Yes. So do subscribe to the main channel, to the Fully Charged show on the YouTubes, because we are rapidly approaching 1 million subscribers.
We certainly are. And I'll tell you what else, Robert. Follow us on Instagram, because we've got some very talented young people doing some really cool stuff with our Instagram now, and it's way more interesting than it once was.
That's true. Our Instagram is getting very interesting. Yeah. I do check it out every now and then, because I find it quite challenging.
You liked one of my photos on Instagram the other day.
I did.
It was the first time I've seen you active on the gram.
I knew how to like it. I didn't do it wrong.
I'm very proud. It was very exciting. You may have to. If Twitter goes on, you're going to have to switch to the selfies.
I know. Going to have to be doing selfies. Anyway, that's it. If you have been, thank you for listening.